The dream machine, DICOM, HL7, IHE in the stack. We're building the future, never looking back.
Welcome to Imaging Informatics Unplugged, where we take complex topics and jargon from the world of imaging informatics, and we try to make these into approachable conversations that you can understand and listen to. Today's guest needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. His name is Herman Oosterwijk, and unless you've been living under a rock, probably you've heard of this person's name, or maybe you have even been trained by him. Herman is an extremely seasoned veteran, training and consultant in imaging informatics. He's been an inspiration for me as an imaging informatics educator myself, and he has taught thousands of students in over 20 countries. Very impressive. And all on the topics of DICOM, PACS, and HL7. Now, today, we're going to be talking a bit about what Herman has been up to lately, where he's focused on helping AI companies with interoperability and connectivity. And one of the highlights of RSNA is always at the end, where we get to read Herman's recap of RSNA. And this year, he focused a lot on front-end versus back-end AI. We're going to have that conversation today. This was round 2. We had a little mishap in the first recording. So I hope you enjoy this. And with all that said, here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Herman Oosterwijk. So here we go again. We're going to try this. This is round 2. We had a little recording mishap on our first recording here. So thank you very much, Herman, for joining and having this conversation. Appreciate you taking the time. One of the things that I hear from a lot of my colleagues is that after they go to RSNA, they really enjoy your recap, your RSNA recap. And it always has a lot of really good salient points and kind of what to look out for on the horizon. This year, it was very AI focused. And you took us through a bit of an explanation on these two categories of front end versus back end AI. Could you maybe start out by explaining how do you differentiate front end versus back end?
Yeah. So if you think about AI, there is the first, what I call the front end. It's everything to do with the pixels, with the image data. Oh, there's another front end, of course, that has to do with scheduling and ordering and all that stuff. And definitely there's a place for AI there. There's actually some recent studies done that I think by Epic, and that the need for duplicate orders, if already the information was present, can be reduced with huge savings. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the front end, more the management of the department. But when I talk about the front end, it's really everything that has to do with the pixel data. So let's take a CT scanner. They create images, and then one of the things that AI could do is create images that are reduce the noise, and the direct impact of that would be that we can reduce the scan time, we can limit the amount of exposure for the patient. So huge impact. Same thing with MRI, we can do noise reduction, AI noise reduction, and it's relatively simple. The model can be trained how images would look like, and so that means we can again reduce the scan time. So there's a lot of advantages there, and actually, there's actually a couple of people in Europe already working on even simulating contrast study, which could be huge impact. Because can you imagine not having to use contrast? Again, the AI would know, because it's trained, how a contrast, enhanced image would look like, and then potentially not having to do the contrasting. This is, of course, a big threat for all the big pharmaceutical companies. But they should be doing AI, and maybe instead of producing more of the contrast, which is not necessarily as good for your body. But
I'm curious, when you walk through the RSNA floor and you're looking at these two categories, where do you see the furthest advancement in the technology? Who's further ahead, back end versus front end? And then where's the adoption on those areas that you're seeing?
So the back end is really, when a radiologist looks at an image and start using the reporting. That's what I call the backend. And what I've seen, just looking at the floor, there's a huge interest. Some of these companies that are doing the reporting, AI, facilitate reporting, you couldn't even get close to the booth. There was waiting lines, and you had to schedule for appointments. And I think it's kind of clear because there is a direct impact on productivity, right? Creating a template, if the reporting system can, for example, recognize that this is a chest, right? And then creating directly a template, and with some terms that, and that will have a direct impact on productivity and efficiency. And of course, not even not even the radiologist, but the managers that manage this group of radiologists. They know if they, instead of they're doing 100, they can do 200 or more in a certain time period. That has a direct impact. And of course, it is not necessarily 100% correct, the generative AI on the back end, but it's relatively easy to make changes. It's almost like speech recognition. We know speech recognition is not 100% correct. When the radiologist speaks into the microphone, you see the text, and then, okay, there's a 1 instead of a none, or we need to fix that or do that. So it's, it's common. They know that between 1 and 5% of the information has to be corrected. And so they're used to that. So I think
it's interesting. Prasanth from Simcast he shared an article with me recently about how when AI gets mistakes wrong, it's very different than how humans get things wrong. Like if I give you a calculus problem and you get it wrong, or you don't do well on it, odds are you're not going to get the next calculus question better. And whereas in AI, the predictability of the errors are very hard to find sometimes.
So there's no question in my mind that the adoption on the back end, and even, not only based on the amount of traffic, but just talking with some the people that manage some of the departments, I ask about AI. Yeah, sure, yeah, we use AI for the reporting. And I said, what about the front end? Not quite there yet. Of course, the big academic centers, they do. But, your mom and pop shop, I would call it. Maybe you have 20, 30, 40, 50 radiologists that serve a particular region. And they're careful, right? For different reasons, several reasons. A little bit different, I found, when I talk with some of my European colleagues and friends. They see a bigger adoption in the front end, but I think we should be not misled by the fact that when they talk about AI, and to a large degree, they use AI to eliminate the second reader, right? So they still have the primary read, and then, for example, for digital mammography, they can replace the second reader with AI, and that has to mean some very encouraging reports as well from studies done that it's definitely it's definitely as good in the performance if you replace a second reader with an AI. So the combination of radiologist and AI second read versus we don't have a lot of second read. I know of here in the United States, there's only a single read. That means that the performance of the AI has to be at least as good, if not better, actually better. Otherwise, why would you use it? And then the primary radiologist. And we're getting there, but as you know, there's some issues clinically. We need to make sure that the algorithms are properly trained, and many of these algorithms were trained to, maybe by data only from particular countries. Whether it came out of South Korea or China or even the United States, or even a region of the United States. I will never forget that there are significant differences in the people living in the East Coast versus the people in the Midwest and Cleveland, and people on the West Coast even. Not even taking into account the cultural differences and the races and whatever, but just the overall general, if it works in one region, it doesn't necessarily work. If it works in Boston, it might not work in Cleveland, not work in San Francisco. So
Yeah,
we have still
Toronto is one of the most multicultural cities in the world, and a patient
yeah,
identity
Toronto.
model trained in Kansas City is not going to work in
Oh
Toronto.
no, oh no. Actually, it's kind of interesting when I travel. I travel quite a bit, and I sometimes come to the Midwest and I look around. Actually, I did a training class at one of the universities in the Midwest, and I looked out at the campus, and I didn't see any non-white face. You know what I mean? So I could really see the difference, and you don't really necessarily realize it if you're used to live in a certain area. You say, oh, this looks different here. So different
Hmm.
cultures,
It's
different.
interesting.
Uh,
So
yeah.
how do you see that problem being handled as far as the diversity of data that's being trained on? Because that is a challenge
Well,
of acquiring valuable data sets.
yeah, it's just yeah, it's really a data problem. That's all. It's just a data problem. So we
Hmm.
need to make sure that we train the data, and unfortunately, I think the FDA has been a little bit, I think, been adopting some of these algorithms maybe a little bit too early, and because maybe it was not quite understood what the impact was of the non-cultural bias on the performance. And by the way, if you think about it, the FDA by now has more than 1,000. They passed 1,000 benchmark or 1,000 medical device, assisted medical device are being approved. But I was listening to the keynote speech at the at RSNA, and it was very obvious that they said, well, the the FDA was definitely a little bit too quick in in approving some of the algorithms. eh. So yeah, that was Eric Topol that brought that up in the keynote speech. Very good presentation. Yeah, if you have an opportunity to listen to that talk, I highly recommend it. So.
Yeah, you in the article you had mentioned that he was a bit of a hero of yours for a few years, and
Yeah,
I remember him also being one of the keynote speakers at SIM a few years back as well.
yeah.
Um,
One of the
I'm curious
visionaries.
if you wanted to share a bit of what he was what resonated with you as far as the key points that he was making.
Yeah, so and he talks a bit about the future of AI, and it's kind of interesting. There are different kinds of AIs. There's the AI for the images, but yeah, also the next phase would be the digital assistants, digital assistant AI, so that you have an assistant helping you particular. And actually, another very good speech that I just listened to that's very recommendable is the keynote speech at CES from the CEO from NVIDIA. And he said, he sketched the future. He said, you have a laptop, Windows-based laptop, and you will have a personal assistant. AI becomes, an assistant, the AI assistant. And that's really, the future. Another very important thing that Eric Paul brought up is, and what we don't do yet, is the multimodal right, capability. It's one thing to look at images, but it's a second thing to be able to take into account also DNA sequencing and lab results and family history and
Hmm.
even location. We know that, yeah, let's take, for example, cancer, right? I did quite a bit of training in release, and there's a higher occurrence of cancer of people that live close to these big, chemical plants,
Hmm.
all these big refineries. So if you know what, person lives in a certain region, that could potentially impact some of the weight factors that you
Yes,
give
yeah.
to that, to everything that being put into consideration. So this, if people, is this, if is this breast image is the high likelihood of somebody having cancer or not. The digital assistants, look, imagine that, for example, a report will be created and the digital assistants could then potentially automatically alert the patient to come back for a checkup or for, maybe let's say, okay, it's okay to come back in a year for screening or 6 months for screening, or you need to come up for biopsy, and then automatically schedule it, right? Based on the information, and even, schedule Uber for pickup because if we know that patient might have problem with transportation. I mean, the sky is the limit, we can can do a lot of things with the digital assistant. So anyway, that's the future of AI. But first, we need to make AI work to make this.
In your article, you also mentioned zero-click AI, the importance of zero-click AI. Anyone that's worked with a radiologist knows that they will thank you if you can minimize the amount of clicks in any way. Expand on this concept of zero-click AI.
Yeah, so people, and I don't even know, I think zero-click, I think it was Dr. Siegel from the VA, used to be, I think he's semi-retired. He was on the Pioneers PA Baltimore, and I think he brought a term up that I heard from him. Anyway, so zero-click AI would be, so that's completely seamless integration, because people, radiology, they don't want to do another click. And actually, I actually would argue that you probably want a negative click, meaning you probably could, would eliminate some of the clicks, and that's not impossible. If, for example, let's say we look at a mammogram or a chest image, and if it's a dark region, then we know that the next step after radiology look at an image and there's a suspected lesion, we know that the next step for the radiology would be, okay, we move the mouse, we go to there, we zoom it up and click on it, we do a measurement. It was a suspected lesion. Why not bring up that suspected lesion right away and automatically create a measurement? One of the most frequent, complaints of the radiologists, they do these measurements all the time. Click, so many centimeters, and then the thing is also then these measurements, right? Let's say 5 centimeters, right? Has then been reported in the report. Why not take in a measurement and then automatically put it in the report like that we do with the ultrasound measurement, for example, today, using a structured report for all the measurements and automatically would be captured. We could do the same thing. So negative click, zero click, first step, and then negative click, we really want to eliminate, because if you don't add value, then it's not going to happen, right? And one of the big values is efficiency. Of course, clinical, you want to make sure that it is, that the AI sees cancer better than what you are, as a person, or sees maybe detects a incidental finding that the radiologist maybe was not looking for, but that's a clinical, and that's going to happen. But I think the efficiency. And that's really one of the key things, because we know that radiologists, we have a lot of radiologists, a lack of radiologists. People are overworked, we're getting more images, and so we don't want to put them out of business, but we want to make the work more efficient and faster, so they can do better, but also a faster job, so we can address the shortage of labor than by using these AI tools. So.
Hard to believe it's 2025 and we're talking about a shortage of radiologists. And what was it, 2016? Hinton was predicting that they were the coyotes running off the cliff.
And that's not only in the United States, not in the United States, but there's a dramatic shortage worldwide. There's some of the developing countries, like when I travel to Africa, doing some of the open source PACS installations there, the radiologist is not even there. You come to a clinic. I was at the clinic in Uganda, and the best thing you get is a technologist, right? And then if there's a question, then the good news is now today, we can upload it to the cloud. There's Starlink everywhere. This is really a big, I think the number one big, game changer is having Starlink, having satellite connectivity for these remote areas. But no, because now we can, and if there's any question, we can upload it or connect and talk even live with a supporting radiologist. So that's really a game changer.
So maybe just to wrap up, I thank you very much. This has been a great conversation. I think we could keep going, but I'm curious what your thoughts are around the friction that we see with adoption. Is it governance, lack of governance? Because there definitely is interest, but sometimes we see a hesitation in the adoption.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really talked about governance. Governance is a major issue, and there's a healthcare AI governance organization that I think everybody should be aware of. You can actually get also certified I'll put the link in the comments. But so I think governance, NDA came up with a new regulation or suggested regulation that will go. So I think it will take time. And I think we've had a little bit of it's almost like this maturity curve. Remember the maturity curve? So we had a little bit, everybody is so excited, and we're a little bit in the valley that everybody said, oh, maybe we need to pause a little bit. But I'm sure, we get through this trough of disillusionment and we get this upward curve. And so that's going to happen in the next couple of years. So I'm positive. Everybody's positive. We just need to deal with it, get better training data, and get the clinical side done better, do better job in the integration, no clicks, no. I didn't even talk about the secondary captures. We want structured report for DICOM, and that goes straight into fire messaging, and so we really want to have the standards there, and then it will happen. So I'm positive. I'm looking to a great future. There's a lot of opportunities. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting. This is coming off, I think, 2 days ago. Is it DeepSync, the Chinese AI? And so we might be on the verge of just seeing an explosion of growth.
It's going to happen
on a whole other level right now. So the future is bright, perhaps. We'll see. I thank you very much, Herman. Last words, anything that you want to plug or anything that you're want to mention that you're...
I want to repeat what you just said. The future is bright, and but we need to manage it. We need to manage the future. I mean, somebody else said that we need to make sure that we manage AI and make sure that AI is not going to manage us, right? And that's just the only thing that we need to be worried about. And but I'm not a doomsayer. I think the world should be able to.
The dream machine. DICOM, HL7, IHE in the snap. We're building the future, never looking back.